Well, it's December. You know what that means. This shitty year is almost over. I don't know about you, but if years were television seasons, 2016 was the year that the Earth jumped the fucking shark. But I'm here to end 2016 on a high note, because December also means Christmas movies. I'm sure most of you see Christmas movies as tired and boring, nice parables to make you feel artificially warm inside. Essentially, they're all the same. They rely on evoking your sense of sentimentality, not for Christmas itself, but for the commercialization of Christmas. Santa, presents, decorations, music. It's easy to be cynical about Christmas movies, and Christmas in general for that matter. Christmas movies are like remakes and reboots. You know what's going to happen most of the time because you know what Christmas movies are supposed to be. They're designed to give you that good holiday feeling you've had before, but they usually fall short of a realistic message and you're left with cinematic blue baubles. Of course, I love It's a Wonderful Life and Die Hard and Lethal Weapon, but none of those are really about Christmas. But there is a movie I love that gets me in the spirit. A movie to wipe away your cynicism, bring back your sense of charity and goodwill, and to help you remember the true meaning of Christmas.
It is important to remember the true meaning of Christmas.
I'm talking about the 1988 remake of the Charles Dickens classic A Christmas Carol, Scrooged. Look, I'm aware that you know the basics of the Charles Dickens version, but there are some youngsters in the audience who probably haven't even heard of it, so here's a basic overview. Ebenezer Scrooge is a miserly old shit that gets visited by ghosts who show him his past, present, and future Christmases to convince him to be a better person so he doesn't burn for all eternity. This movie though, Scrooged, it's different. Scrooged is the story of Frank Cross. Get it? He's Frank and Cross, the youngest president in television history. Frank doesn't like Christmas. Frank doesn't like much really. His only Christmas wish is that his highly publicized production of A Christmas Carol gets ratings. Upon viewing the promo the station is airing for his Scrooge spectacular, he decides it's too nice and is not going to get the viewership he wants.
We have spent $40 million on a live TV show. You guys have got an ad with America's favorite old fart reading a book in front of a fireplace.
He makes a less boring ad designed to scare people into watching the show. Frank is doing what Dickens did over 170 years ago.
Apparently this 80-year-old grandmother was watching your Scrooge promo last night and she just keeled over. It scared her to death.
He's trying to scare some Yuletide sentiment into the audience because fear drives people to keep watching.
That isn't good enough. They have got to be so scared to miss it, so terrified.
Just ask Fox News. Frank treats his secretary, played by Alfre Woodard, the nicest movie mum ever, like crap. She lives in a bad neighborhood, her son is suffering from intense trauma from seeing his father get shot, and the doctors can't figure out how to get him to talk again. Frank also has a brother, who is played by Bill Murray's real brother, John. Get used to this, folks. This movie is a Murray family extravaganza. Frank is visited by the ghost of his old boss, who tells him,
"If you don't change your ways, you're gonna wind up doomed, just as I am."
Frank blatantly ignores the warning and tries to continue with his Grinch-like ways. Frank tries to get the production under control but has to deal with a sycophantic executive who is after his job, the well-meaning stupidity of his boss,
Programming for cats,
and the network censor.
And I will not allow this costume on the air.
Why not?
Well, specifically, you can see her nipples.
I want to see her nipples.
But this is a Christmas show.
While she's focused on covering up nipples, she ignores the physical danger around her. She gets smacked in the face by this big pole, gets bowled over by these barrels, and nobody is listening to her at all. The censors are so preoccupied with hiding sex from the viewers that they miss the more pervasive problem of rampant violence on our screens. Prescient, no? Aren't we all so lucky that the media has rolled back the sexual revolution for us? And the violence on our screens has gotten so ridiculously big and fake that it's turned into a cartoon. The ghost of Christmas Past, played by Murray's close friend David Johansen of the New York Dolls and Buster Poindexter fame, takes Frank on a tour of his childhood, his past career in television, and the one true love of his life. Frank sees how his mother loved him dearly and how his father, played by another Murray brother, Brian Doyle, really didn't care much for sentiment, or Frank for that matter. Frank spent his whole childhood in front of the TV and can't even tell the difference between his real memories and his memories of TV moments. I can relate. Before he was a cold and heartless executive, he was in love with a sweet woman named Claire, played by another great movie mum, Karen Allen. Claire works in community outreach and is a genuinely nice person, if not financially successful. The ghost of Christmas Present, the wonderful Carol Kane, in a delightfully dark and violent role that is perfect for a comic sensibility, arrives and shows him that he's still missing out on the joys of friendship and family, and that his joy won't come back by being a cynical prick all the time. She has to literally beat it into him because
sometimes you have to slap them in the face just to get their attention.
Movies nowadays don't do this right. Slapstick comedy only works if the pain looks realistic, and this movie brings the pain for real. In fact, Carol Kane ripped Bill Murray's lip open with this shot, halting production for days. That is commitment to comedy. The ghost of Christmas future is depicted as death, with captured souls writhing inside him and the face of a television. This terrifying spectre is a symbol of our addiction to television and entertainment. Imagine looking into the face of death, having your life flash before your eyes and only seeing a screen. Pretty depressing, really. The ghost shows Frank that his inability to accept change has influenced the good people around him to become more cynical, and that he will die alone and unloved. Frank is shown his cremation, and then before he knows it, he's in the coffin, burning. This is the wake-up call. Frank realizes his cold and disconnected ways aren't giving him real joy, and he is now damn sure he doesn't want to die joyless.
I want to live! I want to live! I'm alive!
Frank chooses life. He comes back to the real world with a whole new personality and interrupts his production of Scrooge to give a real message of good to the world. He actually destroys the fake sentiment of the production by bringing some real sentiment that is not contrived or controlled.
I'm not crazy. It's Christmas Eve. It's the one night of the year when we all act a little nicer. We smile a little easier. We share a little more. For a couple of hours out of the whole year, we are the people that we always hoped we would be. It's a miracle. It's really a sort of a miracle because it happens every Christmas Eve.
His influence starts immediately as Grace's son is inspired to speak for the first time as soon as he sees this bad man become good.
God blesses everyone.
Scrooged is one of the few movies that get the spirit of Christmas right. It takes you as low as you can go, but then ends it on a very high note. It's positively Capra-esque.
He doesn't know what Capra-esque means.
Yeah, I do. Frank Capra, great American director. It's a Wonderful Life. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
Your Christmas spirit doesn't have to die with the season. Embrace that feeling. Help somebody. Give of yourself. Stop worrying about what you can get out of others. Instead of being greedy for things, we should be greedy for feelings. Sentiment is not a bad thing. When it's done right, it can help you take a step back and look at the bigger world and your place in it.
You have to do something. You have to take a chance. You do have to get involved. There are people that are having trouble making their miracle happen. There are people that don't have enough to eat. There are people that are cold. You can go out and say hello to these people. You can take an old blanket out of the closet and say, here. You can make them a sandwich and say, oh, by the way, here. And then the miracle can happen to you. It's not just the poor and the hungry. It's everybody who's got to have this miracle. And it can happen tonight for all of you. If you believe in this spirit thing, the miracle will happen, and then you'll want it to happen again tomorrow. You won't be one of these bastards who says Christmas is once a year and it's a fraud. It's not. It can happen every day. You just got to want that feeling. And if you like it and you want it, you'll get greedy for it. You'll want it every day of your life, and it can happen to you. I believe in it now. I believe it's going to happen to me now. I'm ready for it. It's great. It's a good feeling. It's really better than I felt in a long time.
We should stop focusing on what makes us different from each other. Stop holding each other at arm's length. Take those arms and put them around someone.
It's not too late, is it?
And put a little love in your heart.
Think of your fellow man.